are recording. All set. Okay. Okay, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Hannah Mohammed. I'm with Best Start for Kids. I'm the Community-Based Parenting Supports Program Manager, and I support our community-based parenting support strategy. We are here today to talk about the Lactation and Perinatal Support Services RFP. As you all know, that RFP is out right now, so I'm super excited to share more content with you regarding that. I will also note that this is our agenda today. So I'll provide an overview of Best Start for Kids, an overview of the strategy, go provide an overview of lactation and perinatal support services. And then we will go into some key elements of this RFP. And at the very end, we'll answer some questions. So have a Q&A session. I will also note in the middle of the session, if any questions come up, please do feel free to interrupt me and let me know, and we can talk about that. Okay, and before we get started, let's talk a little bit about Zoom. You have a toolbar at the very bottom, and in that toolbar, you're able to mute, you're able to share your video. You can use the chat feature to put any comments or talk to myself or anyone else in this group. Again, I would just note that the session is being recorded. And also there is a globe at the very bottom that, that people can click on to enter a Spanish room. We do have Spanish interpretation available today. And I will let one of our interpreters also share that in Spanish for anyone that may not speak English on how to access the Spanish room. Catherine, Martha, would one of you be able to let the group know in Spanish on that there is a little globe at the bottom that they can click to enter the Spanish room, please? Thank you. Thank you so much, Martha. I appreciate that. All righty, then let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about Best Start for Kids. So Best Start for Kids is a levy that is approved by King County voters with the goal of making sure that all babies in King County are happy, healthy, safe, and thriving. So that means we want to see babies are born healthy, that kids are thriving, young people grow up to be happy, healthy, and successful adults. It is a really large levy that includes various different components. We start off we had an iteration in 1.0, and we were very pleased that the voters had renewed this levy for another 6 years. And in this levy, we had some new components that are joining us for the first time. That is the child care subsidy, which is making sure that families have access to child care assistance. Capital projects, so that's building up some of the facilities that children are working and playing in, so such as childcare facilities, community-based community centers, And we have a couple of different initiatives that were part of the first levy and are still core to our 2.0. That is investing early, so making sure that families and babies have the support that they need really early. And that's our prenatal to 5 body of work. It's where this RFP currently sits in. And then we want to make sure that we are sustaining that gain so we continue to support babies as they grow. So that's our 5 to 24 strategy. We know that the communities that babies are in are very important. So we have our Communities Matter strategy that supports policy and other systems elements of this work. We have homeless prevention, which makes sure is that families and babies have homes and that we're preventing homelessness as much as possible. And our data and evaluation is very important. So we want to be able to make sure that we are assessing this beautiful efforts that we're making. So we have our data evaluation team and capacity building. So all of the partners that are funded by BSK have access to some really brilliant capacity builders that can support them. And as mentioned earlier, this specific RFP is sitting in our prenatal to 5 team. And our team works in supporting babies in every setting that they're in. We have home-based services that support babies in their home. We have childcare health consultation, which supports babies while they're in their childcare. And this body of work, which helps babies in the community, our community-based parenting support. We also have a couple of other strategies that are supporting the growth and all the elements of the direct services. That is our integration strategies, which is universal developmental screening, infant and early childhood mental health, workforce development, innovation and supports, Help Me Grow, lead and toxins, and our early supported infant and toddlers. All right, okay. So when we're talking about community-based parenting supports, we like to think of this work as a couple of key components, which is who. We're supporting pregnant individuals, parents, and caregivers, and children up to the age of 5. The what is we're providing peer-based support these are services that are provided for providers that have lived experience and culture or reflect the populations that they're serving. And then the what type of services range from making sure that families have access to basic need supplies, caregiver classes and workshops, support groups, and this bucket, which is this RFP, which is the perinatal and lactation support services and birth workers training. The where is in community settings. So wherever communities are coming together is where services are held. That can be in the healthcare setting, it could be in the community setting, community centers, it could be in a library, it could be in a church, just any of those environments where communities are coming together. So that is an overview, and I'm going to go into the specific sections that are most relevant to us today, which is the lactation and perinatal support services. So before we get started into what are the different scopes of work, I'm just going to provide some definitions of this RFP. So we're talking a lot about prenatal support services. So that's providing culturally relevant education during the prenatal phase of the birthing journey. Lactation and support services is providing culturally relevant education and lactation support services. And then the other component in this RFP is supporting birth workers and with their professional development. So that's providing technical assistance and peer learning opportunities to build the knowledge and skill sets for birth workers in King County. This is a very large RFP, I will say. And I'll just break down some of the things that I pulled out from the RFP and what the scope of work is for each of those different sections. So in the prenatal support services, some of the activities that organizations can apply for is doing birth education classes. So that's classes to help expecting parents prepare for the birth of their child. The maternal and mental health support. So these are education programs that are working on breaking down some cultural barriers, building mental health awareness, and connecting families with culturally relevant and appropriate services. And then group activities as a whole. So the prenatal group activities that talk about a wide range of topics and connect peers to each other. A couple examples of what those topics are is listed on the screen. And I will note that it's, you know, your family's best. So it'd be whatever topics that your families want to connect on. This can include common pregnancy challenges, stress management, nutrition, labor and delivery, the myths and facts of birthing, developing a holistic birth plan, the baby blues and postpartum depression, infant care, racism and the birthing experience, history of birthing in the United States, traditional healing practices and reclaiming those practices. Okay. And a couple of other topics that can be included in our bodies of work is grief group grief support. So this is an opportunity for families to navigate the process of losing a child. That can be, if it's via miscarriage, stillbirth, or abortion, there would be a space for families to unpack the trauma that comes with that. Postpartum support groups. So this is, again, another space for families to come together and talk about the postpartum period and how to have a smooth transition into parenting. Services that are focused on supporting young parents, so parents that are under the age of 25 during their birthing period. And then family support services. So this is services that are intended to support individuals that are helping a pregnant person on their journey. So this can include, but not limited to, significant others, family, friends, or neighbors. And then for lactation and perinatal support services, a couple examples of what the scope of work can include is group activities. So this includes having that workshop, the classes, or support groups that talk about a range of topics so that peers can connect and learn about various different topics. A couple of examples of those topics can be the history of lactation in the US, traditional lactation practices and reclaiming those practices, myths and facts on lactation, lactation fear and how to navigate them, discomfort and pain when chest feeding, cluster feeding, pumping one-on-one, and how to increase production. And then in the lactation perinatal support services as well, organizations can add a component of having international board certified lactation consultation. So this is individual birth workers or health professionals, I should say, that have that credential and are able to support with clinical services when there's more challenges that appear that families need to navigate. Okay, and then some more examples of the scope of work is supporting young people in the lactation journey, so under the age of 25, and then services that are dedicated to supporting the families or individuals that are supporting a pregnant person.
Hannah, yeah. I have a question about the IBCLC.
Yes.
So the IBCLC consultant has to be part of the practice. Is that?
Go back to that screen. I'm sorry. Can you say that again, Faiza?
The IBCLC consultant, they have to be part of the organization in order to be funded for this, or is this something that they can have access to if and when advanced, clinical services is needed?
Yes, so it would be if you have access to an individual that has that credential internally, that's great. If not, you can consult with a person and you can subcontract those dollars out or partner with another agency and to be able to get those services to your families.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Okay. Okay, and then the next body of work is around the birth workers. So we want to be able to provide support to professional individuals that are serving families on their birthing journey. So a couple of that technical assistance and support that can be provided to birth workers include, but not limited to, IBCL certification and support. So supporting birth workers on their journey to getting those credentials, which is the highest credential in the lactation world. And then clinical consultation. So this can be providing tailored consultations and training to support birth workers to address pressing issues or overall assistance in identifying how to be able to breast support families. Reflective consultation. So this can be a space for birth workers to come together and explore different topics, which can include, but definitely not limited to, understanding yourself as a provider, exploring the impacts of systemic inequities, exploring generational and racial traumas, and then lactation training. So providing, increasing the capacity for community-based lactation support. Okay. And then transition into just in general with all this different body of work, what we're hoping to see for some positive outcomes for caregivers. So by accessing the 3 different buckets of support, we want to see that caregivers and babies are born healthy. So babies are healthy and safe and thriving, all of our BSK values, that they're born with full term, which is at 5 pounds, and that we're preventing infant mortality as much as possible. And then babies are chest fed and breastfed. So babies, we want to see that caregivers are initiating and breastfeeding and chest feeding, but also continuing that throughout the first year of life. We want to see that parents and caregivers are resilient. So they have tools and skill sets and strategies that they can tap into and connect with to respond to stressors. This can include practices such as mindfulness and cultural practices and traditions. We want to see that there's social connections built in the community, so caregivers have strong relationships with the community. We also want to see that there is concrete support so that caregivers have access to resources and supports in a timely manner. This can include access to early and adequate prenatal care, basic needs supplies, mental health supports, and then whatever support the families that you are working with need access to. That there's knowledge and increased knowledge of parenting and child development, that there are strong relationships between caregivers and the program staff, and that those relationships are built on trust and have positive effects on the caregiver's well-being. Okay, and then I will note the next section is about some of the components that we want to see in the program. So as programs are applying for this RFP, these are some elements that we want to see in a successful program. So that the program is centering community needs, so it's reflective of the needs and desires and the strengths of the communities that they serve. That community collaboration is happening, which is a respect, and that organizations are respecting and lifting the voices of caregivers, and that caregivers have a key role in helping and shaping and improving those programs. That they're promoting the positive protective factors, so all of those positive outcomes I listed on the other slide. That there is community building, and that there is a space of co-learning and relationship building. That services are linguistically and culturally informed, and that they're designed specifically for the populations that are being served. That there is cultural congruent care, so services are, families can access services before, during, and after the birth of their child. And that these services are provided by trusted peers in their community, and that they're culturally relevant, and that they promote and they approach the work from a strengths-based approach. And I'll transition. This next section is about for new partners that are joining this RFP for the first time. So any new partner that is applying for this BSK RFP and selected for the first time will be accessing innovation support services. So this is a 6-month period, a startup period, where you'll be working with an organization, what our capacity builders, our innovation supports and capacity builders, to be able to build and design your program. So all new partners will be accessing these services. And this is a moment to really think through all the different components of your program and not have to launch straight into implementation. So this includes training and workshops, access to our innovation team, tools and resources, co-designing supports. There will be a shared learning space with other organizations that are also developing their program for the first time, and community building. So for the new partners, new grantees is what we refer to them in the RFP, newly funded programs. They will be accessing the 6 months of innovation support services. So that'll be from January to June of 2023. And in this period is our design and development phase. Individual organizations will be sending a minimum of 2 staff members to attend 5 half-day workshops and to meet with our capacity building team twice a month. And then during that period, you'll be working on these different components. So this includes developing a theory of change, a practice profile, developing the evaluation plans, and then implementation materials. And then from that, the next 2 years, because these will be three-year contracts, the next 2 years and a half, organizations will have an opt-in and opt-out process where they can be able to tap into our innovation team as needed to have attend regular spaces of co-learning. I'm sorry, that is incorrect. I am misspeaking. That's our currently funded partners. The 2 years is not an opt-in. I misspoke. I apologize about that. But the next 2 years is a lighter touch than the 6 months of intensive support. Okay, and then this slide is where I was jumping into a moment ago, which is for our returning partners. So returning partners that are currently funded through the Lactation and Perinatal Support Services RFP, if those partners are reselected, then the 6 months of implementation support is optional. Organizations can select into that, but they could also go straight into implementation. And that they will also have access later on for ongoing evaluation and adaptation, so they can access our team moving forward. And as mentioned earlier when I was talking about BSK and how we invest in evaluation, evaluation is really important. It allows us to be able to evaluate the programs and be able to tell stories about how families are being served in King County. So all partners that are selected for this RFP will be expected to take time to participate in evaluation. This includes developing an evaluation plan, collecting data, analyzing that data, and reporting their evaluation data to BSK. We do this process twice a year. That will be, we do them in January and July, so it's biannually for the data processes. And once we get into contract negotiations further down the line, there'll be much more data, much more information going into what does that process look like. But right now, we just want everyone to know that evaluation is very important, and there will be some evaluation components in the contract deliverables. All right, before I go into the logistics and key components of the RFP, I just wanted to pause for a moment and see if there's any questions on the overview and scope of work of the RFP. I will just quickly check the chat to see if I didn't miss anything. Okay, great. All right. Okay, now is the logistics of the RFP. So this RFP has a total funding of just a little over 2.7 million. It was released on August 31st, and the RFP is due October 12th at 2 p.m. And I want to emphasize on that 2 p.m. deadline. The partners that are selected will get a 3-year contract from January 1st of 2023 through December 31st of 2025. And then here's some timelines of just what to expect for the RFP. And the RFP is currently out, and again, will close on October 12th. In between that time period of October 6th is the last day to request technical assistance. So we have consultants that are able to help organizations apply for their application. And that the last day to request that service is October 6th. I would recommend that organizations please request as early as possible so you can have access to our consultants. Final day to submit questions to Zoom grants is October 5th. So through the Zoom grants portal where the applications are being submitted, that is where you can contact Phil our contract specialist and the main point of contact for RFP to submit any questions that you have on the RFP. Again, the RFP is due on October 12th at 2 p.m. And after that, we'll have a review panel that will be reviewing those RFPs. So these are a mixture of community-based individuals and families and individuals that are connected to this work that will review all the proposals on October 17th through November 25th. We then are anticipating by November 30th to let all applicants know if they've been selected or if they have not been selected. And then from November 30th through December, we will start the contract negotiation period and think through the different components of the contract. And then the start date will be January 2023. As Best Start for Kids, we want to center equity and prioritize funding organizations that are serving low-income families, BIPOC families, immigrant and refugee families, LGBTQA families, and families with disabilities and families that are geographically isolated. This RFP specifically is focused on supporting families that are from the Black community, the Latinx community, the Pacific Islander and Indigenous populations. So those would be the funding priorities. This RFP is open to nonprofit organization, community-based organization, tribes and tribal organization, public or government agencies that are serving King County. We encourage small nonprofits and community-based organizations to submit a proposal. And then the breakdown of how much fund is available. Again, it's over 2.7 million in total for the 3 years. Organizations can request up to 1,500,000. That's 500,000 annually. And we're anticipating and selecting 2 to 6 partners. And I say anticipation because the review panel will be playing a large role in identifying the number of partners we select. Organizations can apply to one or more of the main categories. So organizations can apply to do the lactation component of this RFP, the prenatal support services of this RFP, and then the birth workers. So you can apply for one or you can apply for all 3. The RFP has a couple of different questions, and I will just give an overview of what those different sections are. The first section of the questions are around organizational capacity and experience. So who are you as your agency, and how do you connect with our BSK values? What is your experience in providing lactation and perinatal support services? And then we ask a lot about our program goals, activities, and outcomes. So that section is about what type of services are you providing, and share a little bit more about the activities that you'll be providing in those different bodies of work, and then the outcomes. And then community engagement and partnership is very key with us. So we want to see that organizations have a rich partnership with the communities that they're serving, and those communities are shaping the program throughout the processes. So it's not just in the first stage where you're developing your program, but we want to see that continuous partnership regularly. And then for the innovation supports and capacity building, so our innovation supports team helps our providers and partners be able to shape and design their RFP and provide capacity building support. So there's 2 questions in that bucket to be able to learn a little bit more about who from your team will be accessing those support services and what you're excited about when accessing those services. The RFP character limit for each question is 65,000. We have made it as the largest limit that we can be to not limit anyone. And organizations are more than welcome to use as little or as much of that space as they want. And then there are two different required attachments. One is the budget long form. So we want to see a breakdown of your budget and the details of how your agency plans on spending the dollars that you're requesting. And then the other form is, we are a county and there's lots of different contract terms. So we want to please review those terms and those contract agreements, and then you'll be submitting an acceptance of those terms. Oh, thank you, Eric. I see Eric has put the technical assistance, some information about the technical assistance. Thank you so much. Okay. Some other things to note is that we have mentioned earlier that this RFP, there is an RFP review process, and there will be a team that's going to be reviewing the RFP. The criteria of what that team is scoring is inside the RFP after the questions. The panel will look at that RFP scoring criteria and then collectively make decisions on who's being funded. There is a process to appeal that RFP, and that is also listed in the RFP document. So please take a look at that and then carefully review the rating criteria as well, so that way you are aware of what BSK, the RFP review panels, are making decisions based on. All questions and applications are going to be submitted through our Zoom Grants portal. So this is just a screenshot of what that portal looks like, but there is a couple of tabs when you go into there and select this RFP. One is your application summary. So this is some information about your agency. You can go in and this next section is application questions. So you can go in there to respond to the question. And then the next section is the budget. So you can go ahead and put the budget in there, and then any documents that you would like to attach. The documents are optional aside from the two that's required, the budget long form and the acceptance of terms. But if anyone wants to submit any other attachments, then you're more than welcome to do that. Oops, we already been through that slide. Looks like I have a duplicate. And then a couple of application tips. One is just notating that you do have to upload that acceptance and terms of condition again. The other one is that there is a draft version of the questions on the RFP. So if organizations would prefer to download the Word document, which has the questions, and work off of that Word document, and later move that content over to Zoom Grants, then you're more than welcome to do that. There is a section to upload any supporting documentation. Again, that's optional, but you're more than welcome to upload any supporting documents that you would like to share with us. There is a Zoom Grants library that you can use to be able to look at links and resources. That I will note, one thing that's in that Zoom Grants library is the Spanish version of the RFP. So if Spanish is a language that you feel much more comfortable reading, then please go to the document section to be able to see the Spanish version of that RFP. And a couple of things on the budget. So we are asking for a 3-year budget. If you are applying with another organization as a partnership, then we want to make sure that that we get those contracts for the individual budgets as well. You are more than welcome to be able to break down your FTE in a way that best serves your organization. That could be an hourly rate. You can show the FTE or the salary. We're flexible on how you show that data and information with us on the budget. The budget long form is in the document section, and we will need that document uploaded in the Excel version that we share at the end. And then there is technical assistance. I just want to reiterate that again. Technical assistance is through, I think it was October 5th. Sorry, that date is incorrect on the screen. October 6th. So you can request technical assistance through October 6th. These TA providers can assist in determining if this RFP is an appropriate fit with you, so you can have a conversation with them, give you some guidance on how to best answer the questions, and then where to find some supportive data. They can review your application, include some editing, and review your budget for you to help you think through the components of your RFP. I will note that this is not grant writing, so they're there to support, but they are not there to write your RFP proposal for you. And then here's the link that Eric shared to the technical assistance, as well as in the slide deck. Georgie is our TA and capacity building program manager. So you can reach out to Georgie if you have any questions. Phil Thompson is our RFP lead. So that is the point of contact for this RFP. So you can contact Phil if you have any questions. And then the last slide deck is additional resources and tools that you can use to learn more about this body of work. I have shared a link to our 2020 annual report, our BSK 2.0 implementation plan, and then this is the link to the RFP itself. And that is all for the slide deck. I'm gonna stop screen sharing so we can, I can answer any questions you have. Oh, hi, Hannah. Hannah Locke is also here. That is our BSK Innovation Support Capacity Builder PM, Program Manager. So there is one organization currently awarded under this RFP.
So one organization currently, and but for this particular one, you said it's for between 2 to 6 organizations that you're planning? Okay.
That is correct.
Hannah, can you talk a bit more about, you said lactation services, prenatal services, and birth workers, a bit more about the prenatal services. I'm sure you said it, I might have missed it. What does that look like?
Yes. Well, it includes a wide range of services. It can be birth education classes to help families prepare for the birth of their baby. It could be maternal and mental health support services. It could be workshops or group activities that can talk about a wide range of topics that are most relevant to the families you're serving. It could be grief support groups to help families navigate loss after a child. It could be postpartum support services, so helping families transition from birthing to their parenthood. It could be support services that are supporting young parents, which young parents under the age of 25, and it can be services that are supporting families services that are intended for families that are supporting pregnant individuals. So those are a couple examples of what those services can look like.
Thank you.
I'm looking at another question. Is the funding annual maximum strict to 500K, or is the proposals under 1.5 million over 3 years? 1 year is over K. Okay. Yes, that's fine. If it's overall the 1.5 million, then and you're a little over 1 year, then that's absolutely fine. I will say those funding proposals help us get an idea of what amount of funds you're looking for. So please let us know. what your agency needs to operate. And then during the, if your agency is selected to move forward in the contract negotiation phase, that's when we'll talk more about the specifics of the funds. No problem, I get it. I got little ones at home. No, business with LLCs cannot apply. They would have to find a physical sponsorship. Hi, Anna. Welcome, welcome. I will also put Phil's contact information in the chat. So if there's any questions that come up throughout the next few weeks, please contact Phil Thompson. And then those questions will be directed to be in our P2P team. Great. I'll just give it another second. If there's no questions at this moment, then we can wrap up for the day, and you're more than welcome to continue to ask questions as you work on your application. Thank you everyone for your time. Have a good day. Thank you.